Whenever I mention the word health at every size to somebody, more often than not, I am immediately slammed back with one of the common misconceptions about health at every size. And so in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down 7 misconceptions of health at every size so that you actually know what this whole approach is about and if it's something that you can apply to yourself. And if anything, I just hope that I can dispel all of these misconceptions so that it can be something that's more encouraging to you. On this channel, you will learn the science behind why you overeat, as well as the whole approach of health at every size and how you can apply it to your life. You'll learn tangible take-home strategies that you can use to improve your relationship with food and your body. Now, if this sounds like just what you need, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell in the top right corner so you don't miss a video. I publish every Wednesday. I'm Meredith MacKenzie of Parallel Wellness. I'm a registered clinical counselor and intuitive eating coach, and I've helped hundreds of women to repair their relationship with food in their bodies so that they're more attuned to their hunger and fullness cues. They're actually moving their bodies in ways that feels good and nourishing for them, and they're able to leave diet culture behind and live their best lives. The first misconception that I'm going to cover is probably the biggest and the one that I hear the most frequent. And that is that taking a health at every size approach is really only promoting people staying fat and staying unhealthy. Now, to clear this up, the first thing we need to get clear on is that health at every size is actually about ending weight discrimination. And weight discrimination is this idea that we have internalized for both ourselves and how we judge other people, that people in larger bodies are less than, that they are, all these other negative things that we relate with being in a larger body or being fat. And that if you were in a smaller body, or if you're closer to that thin ideal that our society upholds, that you are a better person for all these other reasons, which we need to recognize, and this is really what health at every size promotes, that that's complete garbage, that personal characteristics do not come down to the body weight or size of your body, and that there's so much more that contributes to why a person lives in a larger body, and it's not about their value as a human being. So that's just the first thing that we need to be clear on. The other important factor that health at every size really works on promoting and providing education on is that the way the medical industry has traditionally approached weight can actually be quite damaging and harmful for people because it's actually not based in true science. And that is that these arbitrary ideas for ideal weights and expectations of what weight should be are not actually based in science. For one, body mass index, and this is going to be a whole video on its own, but body mass index is really just an error waiting to happen when we consider, how we evaluate people's body sizes based on their weight versus their height. And so again, like I said, I'll put this in a future video when we talk about BMI, but the different scales that we use in that way in the medical field aren't accurate, and they aren't a true representation of a person's health. Along with this, just looking at a person on the outside and what their body shape and size looks like, or the weight that they are, doesn't determine how healthy that person is. There are all kinds of reasons why somebody's body might be the weight and size that it is, and they might have nothing to do with the health behaviors that they engage in. They could be eating, all of the foods that we would typically recommend to promote your health. They could be moving their body regularly, getting lots of sleep, not drinking or smoking, all of those things that we consider, health behaviors. And yet, genetically, they are predisposed to being in a larger body. And so it's really damaging to people's well-being when we make these judgments about them and assume, just by looking at them, that they are unhealthy or that they are healthy because they are in a smaller body. And again, we then cut out a whole portion of our community who might actually need some health interventions, but because they're in a smaller body, we just assume that they are doing all the right things. Now, along with this misconception, and I think it's very important to point out because this is, again, where people really try to knock health at every size, is that by no means does health at every size say that the size or the body shape that you are currently in is necessarily healthy for you. It is very possible that because of overeating or emotional things that are going on for you, or things that are happening in your life economically or societally, that you are living in a larger body, and that it would be healthier for you to be in a smaller body if you were to engage in different health behaviors and have some improvements in some of these other factors that impact your health. So that is also an important thing to remember, that it's just not a blanket statement of, just love your body that you're in and everything's fine. There is an encouragement to engage in more healthful behaviors. So it's actually a really critical piece of truly understanding the health at every size approach to recognize that when we remove this focus on weight, we're not also saying that health behaviors and, living a healthy lifestyle are not important. That's absolutely not true. We're just saying that the weight bias is really tripping us up and not a good fit at all for encouraging people to live healthful lives. And instead, let's move these other things to the forefront. The second misconception is very similar to the first, but rather than just focusing on staying fat and staying unhealthy, it's this assumption that people who follow a health at every size approach believe that being in a fat or overweight or larger body is healthy. And again, I want to go back to the fact that the research shows that being in a larger body does not necessarily mean that you are unhealthy. There's nothing to say that exactly weight correlates with negative health. And so that's something that's really important. And I will be doing a video in the future on all of that data and research so that you have access to it. We know that there are people in all different shapes and sizes that are unhealthy. And so weight alone does not determine whether or not somebody is healthy. And so yes, health at every size is not focused on weight loss specifically or encouraging people to lose weight. Instead, it's focused more on increasing access that people have to, a better quality of life that enables them to have a better quality of health as well, and promoting healthful behaviors while taking away that discrimination about weight. The third misconception about health at every size is it's just another social justice movement. And while yes, it is congruent with the social justice movements and anti-discrimination against weight bias, absolutely, it is actually so much more than that. It's very much based in these principles and science and really trying to correct the medical community and how we provide care for individuals so that we can be more inclusive and actually promote health in a realistic way that's based on science, not based on assumptions and this discrimination that has got it wrong for so long. If anything, it's trying to correct something that has gone wrong in our system for far too long. So as we're going through these misconceptions, I'm sure you're having some questions yourself and maybe even thinking about things differently and wondering, well, what about that? So if you have something that you're curious about and wondering if it might be a misconception that you have, or if there's any validity or credibility to it, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I would love to know the question that you have. The fourth misconception about health at every size is that the aim is to get people who are in larger bodies to engage in health in a better way or to lose a certain amount of weight. And this is completely wrong. First off, health at every size wants to take weight off the table and say this is not about weight at all. This is about treating all people equally and treating all sizes equally. And on a deeper level, it's much more about educating healthcare professionals about their own weight bias and how that might impact the type of treatment and the quality of treatment that they provide for their clients and patients, and helping them to step past this so that they can provide holistic and true, genuine care to everybody equally. It's also about people, regardless of their size, living a more fulfilling life. Yes, maybe that involves engaging in more healthful behaviors, but it also means escaping the sizeism that discriminates against them and is oppressive and really leads to a lot of shame and negativity and guilt and probably more engagement in non-healthful behaviors due to this negative response. Now, some of these misconceptions are quite cruel and actually difficult for me to read, but there is a misconception that health at every size is saying that it's wrong for people in bigger bodies to deserve healthcare. There is this belief in a segment of our society that if a person is in a larger body, they are at fault for that, and that any health needs that they have which they believe are a result of their weight, which I do not believe that to be true, but that any of their health needs then should be paid for by themselves and not by the government systems, because they have done this to themselves. And quite honestly, I feel like that's a very cruel and, again, incredibly biased approach and perspective to have, but that is not what Health at Every Size is about by any means. Health at Every Size is very much about inclusivity and equal access to healthcare, regardless of your size, with the belief that the more access to healthcare you have, the more likely you are to get the help that you need when you need it, and that medical issues then do not escalate to be something more intense, requiring more medical care. Now, you might be thinking this yourself, but another misconception about Health at Every Size is that Health at Every Size is against weight loss. And again, I'm going to repeat it, that Health at Every Size is actually, doesn't want to talk about weight. They take weight off the table as even an important factor at all, saying that all human beings, regardless of their weight and size, deserve the same quality of care and the same, belief of their worthiness. And instead, rather than scrutinizing a person's weight, whether they are larger or smaller, or they lose weight or they gain weight, more so about promoting them engaging with connecting with their bodies and intuitively eating and moving and doing what feels right in a life-enhancing way, than any amount of weight loss or gain that they could ever engage in. Now, the final misconception, and I think this is where if you say something enough times, it becomes fact somehow, even if there actually is no scientific proof for it. But that misconception is that if you lose weight, you will see health improvements. And this misconception is that research, even though it's not true, shows that if you lose weight, you will have health improvements. And for this reason, many medical professionals will push weight loss when they're aiming to improve health. However, the research in fact shows that if you engage in healthful behaviors, intuitively moving your body more, paying attention to your hunger and fullness cues, and listening to your satiety, and really recognizing how food feels in your body, and all of these things are very much associated with intuitive eating. I have done quite a few videos on intuitive eating, so I will link the playlist right here if you're interested in watching any of them. However, research shows that the more you engage in healthful behaviors, regardless of the size of your body, regardless of the amount of weight or fat on your body, the more improved your health is. And so Health at Every Size very much encourages and promotes these types of behaviors, or removing the barriers for people so that they can engage in these behaviors and improve their health, rather than putting any focus on a person's weight. So if you're wanting to know more about what Health at Every Size really is, and you've now gone through all these misconceptions and been like, okay, but let's get this straight, I will link my video that I've just done last week on this topic of what is Health at Every Size here, so that you can watch it and learn more about Health at Every Size. Now, if you found this video helpful, I would love it if you give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a video when I publish every Wednesday. This is just the start of my series on Health at Every Size, and I'm going to be digging into so much more research and techniques. And also we have a podcast coming up, a mini series on Health at Every Size, where we are going to be talking to a range of professionals who work with clients and patients from a Health at Every Size perspective. And we're also going to be talking to just members of the community about their perceptions of it, and any criticisms of Health at Every Size. And so I would love it if you could follow along on that journey as we produce this podcast. I will leave a link in the description box down below if you would like to get on the waitlist or notification list for when we publish that mini series in the next couple of months. Now, go ahead and share this video with anyone who you think needs clarification on what Health at Every Size is and what it isn't. And I hope that you have a wonderful day.